Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Fakgor here, of course, and today we are going to take another look at the Charles Martel, but more importantly, talk about some of the new changes that have taken place in ships with the new patch. One of the more notable things, I guess for me, obviously, is going to be the reduction of fires. I was going to wait a little in the video before I started talking about it, because the video hasn't even started yet, but it's pretty fantastic. I'm pretty excited about this change because now finally it means that on a cruiser, when you get set on fire, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should put it out right away. You know, now it's very much a case of, well, you know, if it's the beginning of the battle, or, you know, it's not critical, not going to kill you. I know I don't have a heal on the Martel here at tier 8, but if I did, that would make it even less of a threat as well. So it really, really is nice. Plus, I think, maybe not on this ship, but maybe on my St. Louis, my commander, or one of my ships anyway, the fire gets reduced to like 22 seconds with bonuses and stuff, so it's pretty manageable, pretty damn manageable. But anyway, we are on Neighbors. I enjoy this map. This is really turned into one of those, another one of those like classic maps for ships, and you can see that we are headed down here to the south at A. Not something that happens very often, I find. I find if the team is going to be pushing to A first, you usually have a significant number of your team who doesn't think that that's a good idea and decides to go to C anyway. And when that happens, obviously it's catastrophic. But here in this battle, not so bad. Not so bad at all. Another thing, ships has... I think it's over now, maybe it finished yesterday, but the sale on those pumpkin containers, that was quite a great sale, quite a great sale indeed. I bought 55 of them, so that cost a bit of money, but I did get quite a bit out of it. Not as much gold as I was actually hoping for. I think I walked away with like 30,000 gold or something like that. Maybe less, maybe like 25,000. Maybe, yeah. So less than maybe I would have hoped for, but still, I got some great camos out of it. I got just a crap ton of free experience. I'm actually close to the Nelson now. But yeah, if you guys had a chance to get that bundle or get something close to that amount, I think really ideally you'd want at least 25 of those containers, because where you get the gold is when you get the special Halloween permanent camo things. When you get that, and then when you get a duplicate of it, you get the gold value. So at for the tier 3 ones, it's like 2,500, and for the tier 8 ones, it's 5,000. So it's quite a bit of gold, is what it equates to. But it also means that I have a bunch of new camos. I got a crap ton of flags out of it, and like I was saying, free experience. So it was quite good for the money, and I definitely got my money out of it. I know that for sure. Anyway, battle is progressing, we're moving along. You can see that I start making sort of a mistake. Now, something, I mean, we definitely talked about French cruisers before, but it always goes, you know, well, it's always advantageous to mention it whenever you can, that with your French cruisers, you really can't push on a front, right? It's more of a support vessel or a flanking vessel. You can't be the tip of the spear, if you will. And so I'm getting a little close to B, and I have some, you know, enemy battleships here off in the distance that I was just greedily? I was being greedy, and I wanted to set fires, some early fires. That was the whole plan. Set early fires and get out of there and start racking up some damage is what I was hoping to do, because I figured that, you know, those are tier 6 and tier 7 battleships over there. There's a tier 7 cruiser. I'm in a tier 8. It's fine. No big deal. It doesn't work out quite well for me. And the biggest, excuse me, the biggest cue or tell for you that you're too close when you're in your French cruisers, and, you know, putting distance aside, because obviously you're not looking at the distance, is when you start looking around and you can see the ship that's on my port side is a destroyer, and then you look at the minimap and you notice, oh, I'm up with the destroyers. So yeah, not good, not good. So I realize what's going on, I turn out, but you can see I start taking damage, because obviously these enemy ships are all over me. So we start taking the damage, and we're going to try and get away. Now luckily I do see the enemy ranger off in the distance, and it is within range, so I'm going to start firing at the ranger, hopefully set some fires to the player, maybe, you know, get this aircraft carrier gone, because if we can control the skies, that's all the better. You can see too that I'm still adjusting to this new fire thing, because as soon as I got set on fire, you know, old habits die hard, and I instantly repaired the fire, because I was, oh shit, you know, I don't want to burn. But yeah, not too big of a deal now. I know I'm sitting on about half health, but still. So we are going to get away. You can see I did pop my speed boost as well. Very important that pop my speed boost to get the hell away from here. If I was on lower hit points, I wouldn't be firing back, right? I would be trying to go dark to make sure that the enemy no longer sees me. But right now, I'm not too concerned, because I think, what is that, like one enemy now and then starts to target me and doesn't actually take shots on me. So it's not too big of a deal. Plus, if the enemy does fire on me, I'm now a good distance away that I'm going to be able to dodge those shots most likely, or at least most of them, and it probably won't be that bad of a situation, and it takes the heat off of my allies, right? Some of my other ally ships who are around, it means that that enemy isn't firing at them, which is great. That's what I want. We see some enemy destroyers start to pop up, and I really wanted to get that enemy destroyer, but he goes back to being hidden, so there's nothing I'm going to be able to do there. Instead, I'll switch back over to the Colorado, I believe it is, and see if I can get some more damage going on that player. One thing too that I really, maybe not so much on my Martel, but definitely have been doing on the St. Louis, and it's all in preparation for the Henry, is really working on switching ammo types. I'm decent at it, I suppose, but with your French cruisers, because of the caliber of the weapon that you have, the guns that you have, it really can pay off quite nicely, especially if you find like an enemy battleship or an enemy cruiser that is broadside to you, that is pretty close, and you just sink some AP into that player. Yeah, they're going to feel it. They're going to feel it real hard. So the team has managed to recover pretty good, right? We've pushed the enemies out of B. You can see the enemies are taking up positions on the outskirts of B. We do have an ally in B who is capping it, which is great. We might be able to hold on to this. And in the meantime, I'm taking a look around in my situation, and I'm not being targeted by anything. I am spotted, but no one's really targeting me now. I do have this enemy Tirpitz over here, and pretty big concern for me. I should be able to dodge the Tirpitz shots, any incoming shots that the Tirpitz has for me, but again, I don't want to get too close. At the same point, greed, well, maybe not greed, but just playing the game, I suppose. I do want to also try and maybe cap B, because if I could get myself some juicy cap points, that would be great. And I'm, playing it pretty, not very cautiously, I guess is what I'm attempting to say, because I get really close, right? We can see the Tirpitz right there, and maybe it's not targeting me, but there's another ship back there as well, a Bismarck, enemy Bismarck, that I'm going to have to worry about here as well. And I don't necessarily want to face off against two enemy battleships. So we get some shots out on the enemy Mahan. I mean, the player's on really low health, so there we go. Enemy destroyer is gone, perfect. Don't need to worry about that player. Then we do see the enemy Bismarck start to push around, right? The Tirpitz is in a reverse, trying to get out of the situation because he's on fire and can't put it out, while the Bismarck is then pushing forward to, take shots for the Tirpitz. I do believe that those, the two of them are in a division, so, that's also something you should take into account when you are fighting. It's not a battle between, ship versus ship most of the time. It's team versus team, and you really need to keep that in mind. So we're going to push around, right, trying to stay with my allies near the end. Essentially, I'm like hiding away from the enemies at this point in time, trying to limit the damage that I'm taking, but you can see it's kind of working. I did just take a pretty big hit there, and I'm on pretty low health now, but I do want to try and stay alive as best I can. But you can see I mean, I find obviously the lower the hit points I have, the more heightened my senses are when I'm playing, and so you will be able to see some pretty good dodging coming up here as well from the Charles Martel, and you're in a cruiser, you have a rudder, use the rudder, and again, if the enemies aren't shooting at your allies, this is a good thing, because if they fire at you, and at these distances especially, it's so easy to dodge the incoming shots that it's really going to help out your allied team. Because if they're not taking shots and instead they're pushing forward, that's really, really good for us. So you can see that my team has worked around B, right? And we're kind of flanking the enemy now at this point, because the enemy still seems to be sailing towards the south, although now we can kind of take a glimpse that, they're coming to a stop and sort of regrouping and repositioning. But I was pretty surprised to see this, and for the most part, it's an entire team effort doing this massive flank. You can see that we're not too concerned with the B cap point right now. Right now, we're just working over the enemies. They're not in a good position whatsoever, especially the Tirpitz, and I think the Bismarck actually is getting, the Bismarck is pulled away, but the Tirpitz is not in a good position whatsoever, and we're easily able to start focusing down this player as best we can anyway. Now, I mean, situation looks good for us, but again, the amount of hit points that I have really means that I do not want to get close and start getting focused, right? Like, again, I'm spotted, one person is firing at me, I think it's the enemy Miyoko. I am fairly concerned because the Miyoko will be able to have a pretty good rate of fire on me. Plus, if the Miyoko happens to hit me with some of those HE shells or even AP shells, it will be pretty devastating. So I'm going to try to avoid that. Luckily for us, though, at least as I'm firing at the Miyoko, we do see the enemy New Mexico, and we caught a glimpse of the enemy Bismarck as well, pushing around the island, continuing to the south. This is really, really good, because again, if we look at the minimap and we see where my allies are now in an excellent position to move in there and take A. All the while, we are now firing upon these enemy battleships, right? We've got 3 of them out there. We've got the Tirpitz, which isn't in range, and that's why I'm not firing on the Tirpitz right now. But we do also have at least the Miyoko in terms of a cruiser. So if we can get these 4 ships gone, this would be really, really good. And we have been doing a decent job so far. Now you can see as well that one of my allied destroyers has gotten himself into a position to start capping the B zone, but more importantly is in pretty good cover against some of these enemy ships. So we have a few fires going on the enemy New Mexico, which is great. There's another fire as well, and something as well to pay attention to when you're going to be flinging out your HE like this is you really want to be aware of when you set a fire and when the enemy uses DCP, damage control party. Something you really, really want to be aware of, so that you get your salvos in, set the enemy on fire, enemy repairs the fire, then get more salvos in so that you set fires that'll actually last. Especially now with the 30-second thing, right? That works both ways. As much as I like only being on fire for 30 seconds now, also means the enemies are only going to be on fire for 30 seconds, so we need to keep that in mind. So we see the Bismarck now coming into play. The Bismarck is the closest ship. I do believe we've taken down one of the New Mexicos. We do see another New Mexico there off in the distance, so that's not going to be too great for that player. Set fire to the enemy Bismarck, which is perfect. We are quickly racking up some fire damage here in this battle, which is not too bad at all. And you can see my allies have made their way into C, is it? Yes, into C. They're almost in there, starting to cap it. Some of the allies as well have started to make their turn to the south and just pushing on to the enemies more, right? Essentially, we're pushing the enemies now into the A cap zone. So they're not going to have much of a chance of surviving, especially the Tirpitz here. We did just finish off the Bismarck. The Miyoko's still there as well, and then you can see that second New Mexico. So we're going to try and get the Tirpitz gone if we possibly can, although I think the New Mexico is on lower hit points at this point in time. But whatever, I've been shooting at this Tirpitz this entire battle. It would be nice to get the player gone. You can see the Tirpitz, for whatever reason, is firing high explosive at me. Not too sure why. I think it was maybe it's the Miyoko actually that's firing. Yeah, I think it's the Miyoko that's firing at me, not the Tirpitz. And then of course this island just comes out of nowhere. Yeah, that really sucks. I hate when this happens, especially when I'm on such low health and you have to make this turn. So now I'm broadside to everyone, but luckily no one is targeting me. They all have bigger concerns. And this is, again, one of the benefits to, helping out your allies and whatnot, because the enemies were firing at me for quite some time, right? Out here in the distance. I'm a low hit point cruiser. They figured they're going to get me. But just by doing a bit of maneuvering, the incoming enemy shells don't hit me, allows my team to get a little closer so that when it really counts, when I really need them, like right now, the enemies are actually focused on my allies and not so much on me. You can see only now do I have one person targeting me. Shots go in for that New Mexico. The New Mexico has to be very close to dying. You can see the Tirpitz here is burning. Hopefully that's one of my fires, and in fact it is. So there we go. Tirpitz is gone. And I think that's 3 kills now. So not too bad. In the meantime, obviously my allies have now capped A, which is great. We are going to regroup a little here, maybe finish off the New Mexico as well, and see what we can do about finishing off some of these enemy cruisers, because once this New Mexico is gone, there we go. Only enemy cruisers remaining, the Miyoko, and I can't quite remember what the other cruisers were, but shouldn't be that big of a deal. So now I'm basically just going to push into B to see what I see. At the same time, try and be a little cautious. I was feeling pretty good at this point in time, though, that I wasn't going to get killed, which is probably a mistake. You never want to lull yourself into a false sense of security until the battle is over. So there we go. We see the enemy Miyoko pop up, and it is fairly close, so I'm going to try and get the player gone. But I also want to be aware of my hit points, right, and stay bow on as best I can, even though I might be able to turn and get myself out of the situation. It's still going to be important to stay bow on. There's another enemy cruiser, and in fact it turns out to be a Kutsov, who is pretty much on full health. So this is not good. Not good at all, and instantly I want to try and turn and get myself out of this situation, but you can see I'm not really going to be able to do that until the Miyoko's gone, and thankfully, with the armor piercing, switching over, get the Miyoko, and in fact it turned out to be a Kraken as well, which isn't too bad. But now I got to try and get out of this Kutsov's firing, because I'm not going to survive long against Kutsov just wailing into me, especially like this where I'm only able to get my bow guns off, and I know that I only have 3 main turrets, but still, that's 3 of my guns that aren't able to fire because of angling here and whatnot. But it's so important to angle. so important. Now you can see as well, I get a little confused because now we have this enemy New Orleans who pops up, and the enemy New Orleans is giving me a nice broadside, and I'm thinking I'm gonna just get a few citadels, get this player gone, and get the hell out of here. It doesn't really work out too great for me. So shots go into the New Orleans, and I start missing right away. You can see that I am in a turn as well, and so that the Kutsov is focusing on me, right? Both enemy cruisers are on me, and I really need to get out of this whole situation. Kutsov grounds himself, which is great, gets some armor-piercing shots off, and I do manage to repair the fire. But I'm only on, maybe 200, yeah, right now, 264 hit points or something crazy like that. So it's over. It's done for me. I have to get out of this whole situation. I can't stay here anymore. Maybe I can fire over the island, maybe not. Doesn't matter. I just need to get away. And the whole time, obviously, I really did want to kill that Kutsov, but can't risk it. Don't want to die. It's pretty close, I guess. No, we're winning pretty handedly, but still, don't want to die. Give the enemy that much more time to potentially win it. So I am going to switch back over to my high explosive, because it doesn't seem like the armor piercing is doing what I want it to do right now. And at least with the high explosive, I can set some fires, and there you go, right? He'll burn down, and I might be okay. One of the persons on my team comments the Immortal Martel, and all I can manage is a thank you, because I'm so concerned about not grounding myself and staying alive. The Kutsov isn't faring too well over there. You can see that the player is still on the rocks, and so am I now. Little concerning. The saving grace here, of course, is that I'm not spotted. If I had been spotted, I'm quite positive that that Kutsov would have just taken me down and it'd be over, but luckily it doesn't quite work out that way. So shots continue to go out to the Kutsov. We're not sure where the enemy New Orleans is. There goes the Kutsov. Perfect. One of my allies finishes the player off. But yeah, I'm not sure where the New Orleans is, and I am spotted. So little concerned here. Little concerned. Suddenly now I'm targeted as well, so I know the New Orleans is somewhere in, probably in this gap that we're looking at right now back there. And goes silent once again. Oh man. So we're gonna get our guns turned towards the New Orleans, but we're not actually gonna fire at the New Orleans just yet, right? Because we're not spotted, we're on very low hit points. If we can just a little bit of discipline with our guns here, we might be able to save the situation. New Orleans goes out of sight. Perfect. Don't need to worry about him too much. I was really hoping to pop my speed boost, but I don't have any speed boost left, so I'm just going to have to get out of here and make my way to the island, the closest island that I can get between me and the New Orleans. If we look up at the time, this was the only time that I actually became aware of the battle timer, and I think there's like 5 or 6 seconds left in the battle. And it was, oh man, pretty close. Now in the meantime, obviously the enemies did manage to cap B, but it wasn't that big of a deal. In the end, we still managed to walk away with the victory. And I mean, credit to the team did quite well, and so did the Martel. I really do enjoy the Martel. She's a great cruiser at tier 8. So 133,000 damage dealt, not too bad. Bit of credits earned as well, top of the team overall. But you can see as well, right, the enemy team was there. 3 of their members on a defeat still got over 1,000 base experience, so it was a hard fought battle. Very well played by both sides. I think I got a Confederate in there as well, maybe for medals, but more importantly, walk away with 210,000 credits, and I get myself another point in my for my captain for the ship as well, which is great, because this is going to be the captain that ultimately will be on the St. Louis once I get the Henry, and I am saving for the Henry now. Actually, I finished buying the last modules and whatnot for the Minotaur. I took the Minotaur out last night. You know, it was a typical maiden voyage where I just got so fascinated with the new ship. I couldn't believe how quickly the turrets turned, and yeah, I did get killed pretty much right away because I was looking at other things. But anyway, that doesn't matter. We'll get the Minotaur up on the channel shortly. But as always, you know, I do hope you enjoyed the video today. Be sure to hit the old like button and subscribe if you are not a subscriber. Leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. I love reading those and responding back to them. And of course, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.